world. Yes, what is up? Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Matt Forte. We are here live at the Build studio in New York City. As technological advancements occur at a near exponential pace, so too grows the gap between those who do and do not have access to said technology. The digital divide can be seen globally between countries, but can also be seen locally in America across regions and populations. Now, Verizon Innovative Learning is targeting this issue by providing technology to under-resourced schools and shining a light on the issue through partnerships with organizations like Movers and Shakers NYC. Joining me here now to discuss the digital divide and the ways their work is closing that gap, founder and CEO of Movers and Shakers NYC, Cantave is here, co-founder and CTO of Movers and Shakers NYC, Idris Brewster, and Director Corporate Social Responsibility at Verizon, Justina Nixon-Saintil is here as well. Make some noise for our guests this evening, please. Please. Very good panel. Excited. We're going to have a great conversation. We're going to get started in just a second, but first, I believe we have a fun video of Movers and Shakers NYC in action, so let's go ahead and run that clip.
We wanted to give kids the opportunity to see themselves in what they were learning.
In sum, it's a multiplayer augmented reality learning experience for 6th to 8th grade English students.
The app focuses on 4 female musicians of colors throughout history of use their voices to advocate for social change. When students open up the app and point it at the AR image target, they're able to interact with different video, images, audio, all of that in order to solve a puzzle with their group members. We want the kids to be able to actually feel like they're in the experience all together.
5G changes the game for us because it enables us to make more robust and immersive content.
The kids can see narratives of people that look like them, but also expose them to technologies that they have never really seen before, so they can kind of envision themselves as a part of the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, make a crazy amount of noise for these wonderful people I got right here. Glenn Cantave, Idris Brewster, and Justina Nixon-Saintil, please. Thank you so much for being here, all of you. Welcome to the Build stage. How's everybody doing? You having a good night so far?
Great.
Perfect.
Good, doing good. Blessed.
All right, let's keep it on the good track then. I am so excited you guys are here because you are doing some incredible work. We get a very small window into that world in that video right there. Glenn and Idris, let's start with you guys. What exactly, for those unfamiliar, is Movers and Shakers NYC out here trying to do? How did it start and what is the mission?
Yeah, so Movers and Shakers is a nonprofit, and we're also a collective of artists, activists, educators, and technologists. And our goal is to use augmented reality as a tool to highlight underrepresented narratives for the oppressed people. We do that in public spaces, we do that in the classrooms, and we do that in cultural institutions.
And how did that all kind of start? How did the idea, where does the seed, the impetus for, I'm going to use this technology to tell these stories?
So it started as a result of the tension that arose from a nationwide debate on who should be praised as a monument. So if you look at what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia, like that is a violent example of what happens when you threaten certain Eurocentric forms of history, right? And so the other side of it is that it's expensive to erect new monuments. And so our value proposition is that our team can make hundreds of digital monuments for the price of one traditional monument, and we can do it with permission or without permission.
Everybody gets to experience those monuments through augmented reality and see them in three-dimensional space and actually experience them similar in a way that they would to a physical monument in a park or something like that.
Exactly. So the paradigm shift that we're trying to change is that, through stone monuments, we've been doing that for literally millennia. And so the value also of augmented reality in this case is that we can make them any size and we can place them anywhere.
Which in a way eliminates one of the barriers for entry, whereas before we had to load everybody up on a bus and take them on a field trip. Now you can bring the monuments to the students in the classroom, which is pretty mind-boggling and blowing. Man, that's amazing. Justina, when did you become aware of Movers and Shakers and the incredible work they were doing, and how did they come to be a partner with Verizon Innovative Learning?
Yeah, so when we made a decision as a company to deploy 5G to schools across the country, we knew that we didn't want to just bring the access. We wanted to make sure that we had content and solutions that really harness the power of 5G. So we launched in the fall of 2018 a 5G EdTech Challenge, where we asked nonprofits and universities to submit solutions that they knew could leverage the power of 5G, but really impact student engagement and achievement. And we had, I believe, over 160 submissions, and Movers and Shakers, they were one of the 10 winners of the challenge.
Let's talk about was Unsung what won the challenge for them? Was it specifically the app Unsung, or was it?
Actually, there's been an iteration of the idea. So they won their solution was around bringing these monuments to life. And we thought that was a great idea and really benefited from 5G. What we realized after a while that for us to be able to bring it into the classroom, it had to change somewhat. So they actually made a modification to the idea where we are bringing storybooks to life in the classroom, where multiple students are problem solving and they're able to follow these historical figures in their English language arts or history classes. So it's different from what they want, but even more impactful in the classroom.
Did you guys, when you were designing these ideas, were you designing with the thought of 5G being in place, or was that something almost like a gift, like, oh my God, now we have this pipe, this bandwidth that we can totally reshape the idea and adapt to that? Like, how did that become introduced to what you guys worked on?
Yeah, so we weren't really focused on 5G. I think our focus was to bring democratize access to narratives and technologies and bring those into the communities that need it most. And so with the ability to use 5G, that just enhances our experience so much. All of our assets, all of our art is created within a headset. The artists go in, create using Tilt Brush or Quill, which are two painting and animation programs. And those create heavy, heavy files, and we love animation. And in order to bring the most realistic experience to the kids and the most immersive and most engaging, we need those high-quality graphics, high-quality animations, a lot of computing power. And so with 5G, we can actually run our whole experience, which is usually run on an app. We can run it on the cloud, and then kind of just screen record what's happening in the cloud and send that to the device. And the device is really just a mirror for what's happening up there. So that power really brings us, we can really enhance the power of the apps that were really limited by the phone before.
It's pretty amazing. And again, it just opens up more doors. Do you guys remember the first time that you saw students interacting with the content and with the app, and you got to see this great idea in action and like for real?
Yeah, I think, well, throughout our process, we were always showing the stuff to kids, testing, and even before Verizon, like before going on to Movers and Shakers, I actually worked at Google Code Next, which is a program that created culturally enriching computer science experiences for kids of color around New York City. And so while I was working there, Glenn and I would just show the kids everything we were working on, and their eyes would just light up every time they saw the content, saw how immersive it was, saw that they can do it from their phones. And I think the click for us was they were not only interested in what was happening, but they were interested in the stories, the content, what we were telling through this medium. It wasn't just a gimmick that we were having AR. Like it was content behind. It's kind of like a little Trojan horse situation for getting the kids to really digest historical and educational content. But they were really getting the information really, really quickly. So we knew that we had something when we applied to the 5G.
Was there something that surprised you throughout that process as you were testing it? Did you have certain expectations of how they would behave within the experience with the AR, and you were like, did not see that coming. We're going to need to adapt to that?
Well, one key thing is that we showed our content in galleries as well, right? And the audience is older, and so the audience didn't really find it very intuitive in certain cases. But the kids just took it and ran, and like they they intuitively know what 6 degrees of freedom is when you're up and down and round and go like the whole world is yours basically, and that was like that. That was a point of validation for us because, there's a difference between 3 guys in a room with a whiteboard and saying, I think this is going to happen. I think we could do that. And then, like, when the students and teachers actually see it as value, like, that's big. And then the other aspect is, like, from our user testing, like, a big key insight was that from teachers from other disciplines, so, like, outside of English, whether it's history or the arts or science, they also saw the structure of our story box format as applicable to their needs as well. So this is going to be bigger than English.
Yeah, and we just recently deployed 2 schools in Cleveland that have our 5G access and also have the 5G solutions. And I just visited last week, and the students were showing us how to use these solutions. So when you talk about the fact that it's engaging for the students, they catch on right away, they know how to use it, and teachers understand how to bring it into their content areas to really engage the students. And what the teachers love about it, the feedback that we got from them, was that this is culturally relevant. And that's something that's missing in a lot of our classrooms today. But for the students we reach through our program, these are the types of solutions that will really make a difference for them.
Well, I want to talk about that. Oh, well, I don't want to cut you off, Idris. What were you going to say, man?
I was just going to talk about how I think like students are really the best age group to, especially middle school students, to test what we're doing. Because when they're at home, they're playing Fortnite, they're on social media, they're watching TV, they're intaking a lot of things visually. And so when we get to test out this AR stuff with them, they just want to take the experience as far as possible. Like they actually kind of trying to break the experience, trying to find all the nooks and crannies where they can do whatever they want. And from a developer standpoint, really, they really show us the weak points of our beta and our prototype, and so it really allows us to build.
Which, especially in the medium in which you guys are telling a story, is so valuable because it's uncharted territory. You're not just making a short film. You're not doing something that's been done a million times before. You're literally inventing how this process works. You mentioned the stories are culturally relevant. The lessons are culturally relevant. You know, you look at something like Unsung. What goes into the decision making behind the stories you want to tell with this tool set that you've developed?
Yeah, so the first thing is that, you know, when we were kids, in terms of Black history, like everyone heard about Dr. King, everyone heard about Harriet Tubman. It's like, okay, that's cool, but the same stories over and over again, like Black history is not a monolith. And so we want to dive deep into stories that you may not know about that can bring up other aspects of the Black experience. So that's the first thing. Then the second thing is with Unsung, the idea was to highlight 4 icons over different periods of time, right? And so these were people that we picked through stories sort of overlapped in terms of certain themes. And the reason why we did that is because as these are singers that are like have been fighting for social change, you can see the different dynamics in terms of the challenges that they faced and like what we face today specifically. So it was all sort of intentional and linear in terms of how we crafted the story.
It's pretty amazing. Justina, how long have you been working with Verizon Innovative Learning?
Yeah, so we started Verizon Innovative Learning back in 2012 when we realized that schools were using technology but not effectively and definitely not efficiently, and they were not seeing an impact on learning. So we started with just a professional development program, and a couple years after that, we were able to provide technology and access to under-resourced schools across the country. And over the last 6 years, it's been incredible. We started with 8 schools. We're now at 152 schools, middle schools across the country, and our goal is to add 200 more schools over the next 2 years, 100 of which will have 5G. So we've seen increases in engagement, increases in academic achievement, and what's great is that you see culture changes. You see so many different positive things coming out of this program in schools. So we're really proud of it.
How do you identify which schools? How do you create that list? I know I need 200. How do you find the 200?
Yeah, so we identify locations that make sense for the program across the country, and we're mainly today in a lot of urban areas. But we work with nonprofit partners that help vet and select the schools, and we look for things such as, you know, visionary leadership in a school, making sure the teachers are bought into the program and the principals are bought into the program, making sure that the students can take the devices home, because that's a really big part of the program, is to make sure the students have access at home, so we could decrease the homework gap. So there are a lot of different factors we look at to select the schools for the program, but they have to be middle schools and they have to be under-resourced. On average, around 84% of our students qualify for free and reduced lunch.
How has the program, as the technologies evolved and changed, and as new things like 5G and augmented reality have become more prevalent, how has the program evolved to implement those things?
Yeah, so we started it as a one-to-one program where every student receives an iPad or a Chromebook with our access. But now it has, you know, changed so much, right? We're bringing cutting-edge technology to labs that we create in the schools, where students have access to AR, VR, Internet of Things, wearables, 3D printers. So our goal is to really move our students forward, not just play catch up. You know, make sure that they have access to all of the new technologies so that they have the skills that will prepare them for the future workforce.
You know, you mentioned so many of those different things. How far, when you guys look ahead in the future, how far do you roadmap so that you can have multiple iterations moving ahead? Like, what does the next version of Unsung look like? How do things go from here?
Yeah, so there are many answers to that question. So what's immediately in front of us is refining Unsung so that it can be scalable across multiple schools across the country, right? And so there's a process for that. We're refining our cloud rendering so everything works properly. But then after that, the next step would be to make like another 4 stories essentially see how that plays out, right? And like, we'll see what doors and opportunities open through that, but like we want to like explore the different possibilities of implementing this in different subjects. But then sort of going back to our social mission, everything is about, for us, like putting the technology of tomorrow into the hands of the communities that get it last. So we do teach-ins all in public spaces all over New York City. And so over time, as this technology becomes more common, we want to implement our assets for unsung and put them in public spaces, as well as our digital monuments, put them in public spaces and have it be available for the people.
How long does it take to get a classroom comfortable with the technology? Kids pick it up immediately. Do the teachers need a little more guidance? I remember years ago, I worked for Apple a long time ago, and when iPads first came out, the instinct was get them in the classrooms, and then we quickly found out we don't know what to do with them. Like, we've got them, but now we need to learn how to use them. What does that process look like on your side? How has that evolved?
Well, I think our job here is to make the application as simple as possible for people to use in the classroom. And I think a lot more work needs to go into making sure that it's seamless for the teachers and to be able to incorporate it. Because if it's not seamless and if it's a waste of the teacher's time, or it's taking the teacher a long time to understand how to use it, we've already failed our job. And so we want to make it so the teachers can pick it up, let the kids run with it, let the kids be the agents of their own learning, and then bring what they've learned in this experience back into the classroom for a discussion or other things. So I think our main goal for the next year is really just making sure that teachers can just pick it up.
Right. It's an exciting ride for us, this whole process, because at the end of the day, we're entrepreneurs that have just jumped out of a plane and we're building a parachute on the way down, right? So like, literally, like, from refining our process to the story box and figuring out like the different interactions and like what's meaningful, what's immersive, what's useful, like all of that, that's like where we're at right now, right? And then, as Idris said, like we need to have a simple out-of-the-box product that teachers can just use. At the stage we're at right now, it's pretty much us going to the schools and facilitating the activity and like even the onboarding process is long. So we need to refine that, make it simple, scalable, and then boom, have it be second nature.
It's just so cool. It just checks so many different boxes. Like, yes, we're telling these incredible stories, and also at the same time, how many young minds are you inspiring with exposure to this technology that now they want to make their own augmented reality apps. They want to learn how this stuff works, and it's just a really cool sort of ripple effect that this has. Before we go over to the audience questions and stuff, let's have a little bit of fun. Let's look 10, 20 years down the line. Let's start with you, Justina. What do you think the future of the technology in the classroom? What do you hope to see? Well, pie in the sky, blue sky, 10, 20 years.
So I don't know if we'll have a classroom. Do we need a classroom? So if you have multiple students collaborating in a virtual environment or using augmented reality or even having an AI assistant who helps them, right, understand a content area, I think the idea of classroom as a place with four walls goes away. So I think that just opens up a lot of possibilities for students who are different learners, really moving a teacher to a guide, supporting a student but not a lecturer. And I think it becomes more personalized but also becomes more collaborative. So it really depends on what you want to do and what type of learner are you and what best supports you. And I think that's what technology offers to students.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that it's, as Justina was saying, and as I said before, the students need to be the agents of their own learning. And so the technology is getting better to where kids can kind of choose their own adventure. I think it's becoming more visual, more interactive, but I think the biggest thing is social. I think the kids being able to collaborate with each other across the globe, wherever they're at, it really frees the reins on education that we have to be in certain institutions. I think democratizing that for any kid to access is powerful and is a good way to create a lot of impact.
Yeah, so from my point of view, I think there are three things that we need to keep track of. So the first is like how the internet becomes ubiquitous over time globally. The second is like the immersivity of VR itself. In my perspective, I think AR is now and VR is the future. So like the naked eye can see things in like 9.6K right now, and they're already 8K headsets. So once the technology shifts to a point to where your visuals are indistinguishable from reality, that changes the game and it gets fun. And then with the AI, there are companies in China right now that have like individualized lessons that learn from your learning patterns. So everything is specially catered to you, right? So the way that I see it is that once the internet is ubiquitous everywhere, and then once you have these VR classrooms where it's like we're in this studio together, And then once you have the AI that caters to your specific learning, then you'll have a kid from Mogadishu, Somalia, that also has the same access to the quality education as a kid from Greenwich, Connecticut. And that's a huge paradigm shift.
Huge, for sure. This is going to seem totally non-related, but give me a second. It is. You were talking about just the significance of giving children agency over their own learning, and it's just so funny because I was talking to a gentleman from Supernatural named Misha Collins. He has a cookbook that he just put out. Again, trust me, it ties around. And the whole point of the cookbook, though, was that they were discovered how making family mealtime an activity for the children to drive and giving them agency over their own meals led them to choosing healthier options and choosing better food because they didn't reprimand them or tell them, no, don't do this, no, don't do that. It put them in the driver's seat. And it's just fascinating to hear that sort of permeate throughout all these different facets of our culture. And I just wonder, why did it take us so long to figure that out? Nobody let me choose anything when I was a kid. So what's one piece of technology we got right now that you wish you had when you were a kid? One, because there's a million things I wish I had when I was a kid. Pick one thing when you were growing up you wish you had. We'll start in the end.
Honestly, when I was a little kid, I got a VR headset from Toys R Us.
Did you have Virtual Boy when you were a little kid, the Nintendo one?
I didn't. No.
I had a buddy who had it. I didn't have one, but I used it once, and I was like, what this could be. It wasn't that great at the time, but it
that was the same thing. I put it on. It was like, I was telling all my friends, I have a VR headset. Come check it out. I was inviting all my friends over, put it on, embarrassed myself. Like, it was a complete black world. It was like watching Pong, just super minimalist, right? And then in 2016, I put on a Google Cardboard, and I was somewhere else. I took it off, and I was like, okay, this is it. So I wish I just had that as a kid. It would have been cool.
What do you think, Idris? What did you wish you had when you were a kid, man?
3D printing technology. Like when I was teaching these kids, like them being able to create their own things from a computer, and really just mold and craft and create in such a advanced way, and then seeing that thing come to life in front of you is something that I would have, my mind would have been blown. And
Justina.
So I am much older than them. I wish I had the internet as a kid. You can't beat just having access to information. You just can't beat it. So I think that's my answer to that.
Those are great answers. All right, we got some questions from the audience, but I thank you guys so much for having so much fun with me and having this conversation. Let's go ahead. I want to get all, if we can. We got at least two of them. There's microphones out there. First one, come on down.
Hi, guys. So first of all, I'd like to say I find this to be such an important cause, so thank you so much for being a part of it. And I was wondering, what is something that we can do as regular people to actually get involved in this?
First thing, show up. We do pop-up galleries, we do teach-ins, we do programs in museum education, the museum education space. So like, in terms of just like coming out to support, that's great. The next question, we could even talk about off camera. The question comes down to like, what do you know how to do? And then we can figure out a role, and we can just make it happen.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Show up. That's a big part of it. That's step one, is be there, yeah. Are there any websites or resources that like people that are watching live right now, they want to give you guys money, they want to help you out? Is there a place anybody can go to be involved from afar?
Yep, so our website is moversandshakers.nyc.com, and then we're at moversandshakers.nyc on Instagram, so you can reach out there.
Can I do one more, Luke? Let me get one more in here. Let's go. Come on down.
Hi. I was wondering why you guys think it's important for corporations like Verizon to make a difference.
Well, I can just let you know, I mean, we believe it's our responsibility to support our communities where our employees and our customers live and work. So it's just part of our social responsibility, and we've been supporting education for many, many years. And I'm really proud of a company that puts so much resources into bringing the newest and latest technologies to schools and really supporting students' growth and helping teachers understand how to use it in the classroom. So it's wonderful that we're able to do that.
Thanks so much for your question. Justina, I know you guys, you have ambitious goal, 200 schools. Is there anyone out there, if they're watching and they say, I want my school to be one of the 200, is there an avenue through which they can nominate or put themselves on your radar so they know?
Yes, so they can send an email to verizon@digitalpromise.org. Digital Promise is our nonprofit partner that does the vetting and selection of our schools. So that's verizon@digitalpromise.com. Sorry, verizon@digitalpromise.org.
Verizon@digitalpromise.org. We'll get the lower third going. We'll make sure it's in there. No worries. I want to thank all of you again for taking time out to come hang out with us tonight and tell us about the amazing work that you're doing. And it is amazing. It's so great to have you here. And everyone who can get involved, get involved, be involved. Thank you again for being here one more time. Thank you guys for being a great audience and having some great questions. Please join me in an uproarious round of applause and thanking our guests, Justina Nixon-Saintil, Idris Brewster, and Glenn Cantave for being here. Thank you guys.